Paramparai vidmahi Jnanalingeshwaraya dhimahi Tanno Guru prachodayate Om. Namaskaram. Welcome everyone to Songs of the heart-to-heart conversations with teachers and mentors of the Gitananda Yoga family worldwide. Today, our very special guest is Yogachariya Jnandev Giri. Namaskaram, Jnandev.
Namaste, namaste, Sangeeta ji.
Namaste, Jnandev Giri ji. So, would you like to begin with a moment of quiet time as you suggested?
Yes, please. Because for me, when we're talking about especially our beautiful tradition and lineage, it's lovely to start with the Gayatri Mantra for our Guru. So please, let's do that. Tatparamparaya vidmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya dhimahi Tanno Guru prachodayate Om. Om Yoga Maharshi Satchidananda Sadguru Guru Gitananda Giri Ji Jai. Om Satchidananda Yoga Maharshi Yoga Guru Amma Ji Jai. Om.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Thank you. So I would like to share with our audience some facts about your upbringing, about your bio, which then I will also, as usual, copy in the description of the video, including some links on how people can reach out to you and find you. So you are propagating, and you have been for several years, propagating authentic Sanatan Yoga based on Indian Rishiculture Tradition, both in the UK and in Portugal. You are the founder of a Gurukula, a home of Sanatan Yoga in the UK and Portugal, and you're representing the Paramparai of our beloved Yoga Maharishi, Dr. Swami Gitananda Giri. You are the author of several books, and you're very passionate about education and about educating people on the holistic yoga and the value it has in our life and health. You were born in India and spent your first 33 years there, so I will ask you, the first question will be about your upbringing in a few minutes. But you had no desire at first to leave India. In fact, you were sharing with me how then Hatha Yoga came later in your life, so we'll talk about that in a moment. You have been teaching since 2002 and have many years, therefore, of teaching and practicing all of the aspects of yoga, from pranayama to yogasana, yama niyama, mantra chanting, bhajan singing in Sanskrit, yoga chikitsa, satsanga, swadhyaya, and more. So I'm delighted to welcome you here. Thank you for being here. And please tell us about how yoga was a way of life for you since you were born, and especially the particulars of sound, as bhajans were and mantra singing were in your home. So please, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sangeeta ji, for hosting, and I'm really excited, especially to me when it comes to talking about our Gitananda tradition and our gurus and these beautiful practices. It's just, to me, even thought of it itself seems to be quite blissful, quite like, I don't know, like deep from heart. It feels like emotional. You just feel like something vibrating in you. You can talk about it all day. Yeah, so my yoga journey really, I can say that I was very lucky, either as Patanjali talks about the prarabdha karma, or maybe just I'm born to be with the yoga, or yoga is to be with me. But I was very lucky that my granddad, that's my mom's father, my nana, he was quite famous in Rajasthan, and he used to do the kirtan, bhajans, and used to hold the satsang groups where he would talk different stories and different sort of teachings in a very subtle, in a very simple way. And interesting enough, he actually never went to school himself, which is very inspiring, that someone who cannot read the books and scriptures, how he knew so much, how he learned the music, how he learned to actually compose his bhajans. And he really introduced me to the Hindu scriptures and yoga in a very beginning. So when he realized that I can read books, because we used to be very close, we used to be like mates, we just like all my school holidays, all my festivals, I'm off. I'm going to my grandman and granddad and grandmom. So he kind of played on that, and he used to give me the sweet addiction I had, all the Indian laddus and stuff. So he would make all the sweets in the house. As long as I read the books, he gets for me to read for him. So for me, the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayana, all that actually started by reading the books for him, so he can hear, and then he will tell me the stories in his own language again. So that was my sort of initiation, and obviously being born in a typical Hindu family where the virtues and all this sort of religious practices, taking part into the prayers and mantras and going to the temples and taking part in all these satsangs and kirtans, it was like a very, very important part of the life. And I guess anyone comes to the ashram, they really get to experience that, not only learning the sound, the practices in the ashram, but actually going out in the community, different evenings and celebrations. So you can see how it is such a beautiful part of our culture itself. So that was my beginning on the yoga path and the sound.
Wow, what a beautiful story. And it's so reminiscent of so many wonderful stories we hear about the oral tradition of the teachings, because we know in this parampara we are taught, especially if we're not born in India, we are taught how from the early on teachings, the manifestation of the Vedas through the rishis, this is a Shruti tradition, right? It's a tradition that is heard, that is truly oral. And so for you to read to your grandfather, but then your grandfather actually had received the teachings by hearing originally, how it is originally intended. What a wonderful exchange. I really got a bit moved. So thank you for sharing that. So what do you remember growing up and hearing the kirtans and hearing the bhajans? Do you have a memory of you as a child of that you would like to share? That would be very special.
I think I have quite a couple of bhajans, like the one we do in ashram quite a lot is into the Raghupati Raghav, and my granddad, then the last bit of it, Ram Ram Jaya Raja Ram Ram. And once he get into that, then he may be singing that, I don't know, sometime in my mind, I think he was singing it for days and days, because when I wake up, he's still singing it. And when I go to bed, he was still singing it, whispering it. So that would be my first sort of memory, actually remembering something, and which I used to think my granddad is crazy. But I guess once I got into it myself, then it really gradually, eventually changed my perspective to see actually how amazing or powerful practice for anyone it is, really. And I think as I am growing into my own sadhana and going through so much different aspects, you got Hatha Yoga, pranayama, mudras, and the postures and all these yogic philosophy practices, I would certainly say now that the bhajans, the mantras, and the sound is one of the most profound and the practical, applicable, and the shortcut path. So if anyone looking for the shortcut even to enlightenment, I would say we need to dive into the sound, because the sound really is a source of creation. So if we are doing any form of sound and singing and chanting, we are tapping ourselves into that energy. But at the same time, as I'm talking about my granddad, really, and to me, until I come to ashram, I wasn't really initiated so deep into the sound. And the kind of contract or the agreement my mom and dad and my parents had, that my granddad will never teach me any of his bhajans and instruments. So that was the contract they had into the back of their hidden behind me. And I guess one of the reasons that my parents knew that there's something not right with me, okay, from the social perspective or from my parents' perspective, they felt or they sensed that if they let me carry on with him, I may not come back to the family. So they kept me away from that side as long as they could have kept me away from it. But somehow still my granddad let me read and go through the other side of it.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, wow, that's how powerful. And so then what then so I would imagine when you left India when you were 33, um, were you still new to the official initiation, as you said, of training in yoga and all, or had you already done that? So, in other words, did you go back to India for an intentional study, or how did that happen? How did you come into contact with the Parampara of Swami Gitananda?
Yeah, so that's a thing. Now we are skipping quite a bit here, and because I'm saying that, well, I did not really come to UK after learning it all because I was there. So before, like going through my journey, meeting with lots of sadhus and going through ashrams after my granddad and initiation through him. So I learned lots of traditional practices in Nath, Giri and Naga tradition. And also I already had done my master's MSc in yoga and meditation in one of the Zen university. And that was 2002 I completed. And that's where I started to teach in Jaipur and the various parts of India. And then 2006, and by then I actually renounced and I was wandering around as a monk. That's when I ended up in South India. And it was, I think for me also, that journey itself was quite a powerful journey because I was looking somewhere to refuse myself and dive somewhere deeper. I was looking for somebody who can really give me a bit more knowledge or a bit more practices I needed. And somebody just like in Pondicherry, in one of the conference, we were talking about it, and I can't remember the guy, but he mentioned there is an Anand Ashram, ICYER in Pondicherry, and I must visit it. And then he was showing me the website. And next day I came to the ashram to visit. And I guess for me being in India, because I lived in ashrams and I thought in ashram, anyone can turn up anytime. Actually getting to the ashram itself, I realized it was more of a very organized institute which is running the courses in a traditional ashram concept. And the Kumar, the guy who used to admin and look after Amaji back then, I nagged him for at least 2.5 hours, and then finally went up to see Amaji. And Amaji sent him like, okay, tell Jnandev or Surrender back then that I will see him tomorrow 3 o'clock when I go out for a cup of tea. And I just held Amaji's feet like, I'm here. And I think to me, it was quite special because I was there on the 31st of September or 30th of September, something like that. And the course starts on 2nd of October. So I haven't done this step by step or anything. But anyway, I just held Amaji's feet and finally, gradually Amaji said like, oh, let's try it for a few weeks. And if you fit well into the group, then you can stay for 6 months. And then after the completing the course, 2008 is the time when I came to UK.
Wow. As they say. What a story. This is marvelous. Oh, what a story. This is so marvelous. Thank you for helping me and us understand more of the journey. So, how interesting, right, that this path of yours then was already traveling through India in various ashrams, and then you found the actual training that then allowed you to also teach in a particular way in Europe, because I would imagine that it would be perhaps I'm actually, let me ask you this. Did you find then that the structure of the ashram and the organization, the impeccable Amaji's organization of the 6-month training was useful to you as you then came to the UK? The question is a bit biased because my answer, I know the answer for me, which is yes, with all capital letters. So it's a little biased, but I would like to actually ask you, how did you find that to teach then in the UK after the experience of teaching in India through the 6 months course? How did you apply it?
I think to me it was quite amazing, really, because I would again go back a little bit to start with, how for me ashram really changed. And when I say ashram, to me back then, Amaji was the whole soul guru because she was doing the hut yoga and listening her every morning, and then the satsang every evening, and going through all that process. What to me Amaji did and what Swamiji did really through the step by step, and then the doctrine and the through all is because he used to do the mantra class in our time. So that was every afternoon, 4 o'clock. And what really it did to me, see, before I came to ashram, I learned Hatha Yoga, I learned pranayama, I learned mantra, I was doing kirtan, I was doing satsang, learning philosophy, and each of the different parts of yoga was separate. And wherever you go, they will be like, okay, if you're doing Hatha Yoga, everything else is wasting your time. If you're following Raj Yoga, the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali, then doing Hatha Yoga is wasting your time. So actually coming to ashram, what really happened to me is it's thanks to and my gratitude to Amaji. She put all the blocks together and helped me to realize that they are not separate. You cannot really practice one without other. Even you cannot do really bhajans without having a good asana practice. You cannot do good asana practice without having the pranayama. So that was the biggest thing for me to understand. And then as you mentioned, the second thing really Amaji gave me is the structure of all inclusive. So yes, to me, if I was not been with Amaji, then I would have been running, I don't know, let's say Kundalini yoga course where I would be just doing the meditation and talking about them. Actually putting the Hatha yoga, pranayama, the satsang, the mantra, the bhajans, all connected with each other. So it has given me that most amazing and most comprehensive, complete structure. And I'm ever grateful. I think to me, the teacher I am today, I'm just indebted to Amaji. I don't think I would be the person who I am as a teacher. I don't know, as a being myself, who I was for the better or worst. I may be something, I don't know, better or worst. But as a teacher at the moment, to me, who I am, and when I teach, I really feel like if Amaji is teaching in me, like Hatha yoga practices and all the crazy stuff I can do. See, in our time, I don't know, I have to admit, Amaji was young, fit, and I don't know, I remember many mornings, Sangeeta, in the morning, like it's 8 o'clock, 8:30, and then Shanti is making the fragrance of the the dosas, and Amaji is still going through the warriors, and you're like, when is he going to stop? It was a very different time, and I don't know. To me, that is Amaji, and that is the teachings I try to take forward.
Oh, thank you. I remember, I was in the ashram the year after you. I didn't realize we almost crossed. Yeah, I remember fondly. Yes, those mornings as well, and I definitely remember Shanti's dosa smell. Okay, I have one more question for you, and I have many more. And see, I always repeat this every episode. I always repeat it. As our time comes to a completion of the episode, that's when we're really getting into the conversation, But so because the series springs out of the Nada Yoga immersion, I would like to ask you about your current practice with sound. And of course, as you just said, none of these can be separate from the others. That's very clear. So I'm not asking to be exclusive, when you share your experience with sound. But what is your current practice with it? And how has the practice of Nad, whether it's the mantra or the bhajans or reading the scriptures, the swadhyaya part of that, how has it changed in time? And what is one of the greatest teachings, one of the many, but one of the greatest teachings you have learned from the practice of sound, whether it's listening or making sounds or inner sounds? Thank you.
I guess for me, all these years, especially since I've been to ashram, that we are doing the mantras from the first thing in the morning till the last thing in the night before you can head back to your comfortable bed for the long savasana or yoga nidra. To me, the nada or the sound has been a really very, very big part of my practice. And since being to ashram, I guess even the bhajan singing and the kirtan has become part of my life. And now I cannot really remember if I can do the satsang without actually singing through a couple of bhajans. It just seems to be I never really get into the teaching itself without it. And I have been incorporating the mantras and the sounds in the Hatha yoga practices and the pranayama and the satsang. And I guess, as I mentioned earlier, at the moment to me seems to be sound is such an important practice to help to lift my mind, help to rise my energy into more blissful me, if I want to put it in a really simple way. And then also I, over the years, I had some really amazing spiritual experiences with the sound or with the nada itself. And my last sort of most profound experience, I remember, the two of them actually, I will mention as we're talking about our tradition. It was a couple of years ago before the lockdown. We were there in ashram in the all night Om chanting. And I was chanting and I kind of just decided I'm going to be there and chant through the night. And, we do it till like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then you start to feel. And I just lay down and I was still sort of going through my chanting, Sangeeta. And I think like it must have either fallen asleep or something. And then I can begin to hear this amazing, like intense sound. And I can feel like myself like expanding in the whole of the Patanjali Kutir. And then, you suddenly you wake out of it. It was quite scary to me because I woke out of it and I can open my eyes, but I still hear this sound that is going through. And now I'm trying to actually look around to see who is chanting that sound. And then the second thing I realized after a minute or two, actually there was nobody in Patanjali Kutir. It was just me alone because the sound got so intense. Everyone just ran out of it. And I'm just trying to sit up into that thing and I'm trying to chant the Om again. And it took me 6 months again to chant it again. And thanks to Dr. Nanda, then he talked me through, like, it's okay, Jnandev, we can dive into the experience again. And then my second experience then, after that, as we went through the, I'm talking again on the Yantra course, because I went in the beginning. And then towards the end, then we have the Om Namah Shivaya, the Shivratri. And that was really, to me, life-changing, because before that, I always felt very shy. I always felt very reserved. And I guess it just maybe just between me, my granddad, and my parents, that I never managed to actually sing a bhajan. And when we were on the course, they were like a big group, and there were like 4 or 5 of them. They always singing and singing. So I never got to sing anything. And then in the Shivratri, then, we are singing the bhajans and everyone enjoying the meal there. So there was a whole group of students, me and Devasnaji, and then we singing the bhajans, and gradually everyone went out to eat and, just get through it. And it was just Devasna leading the bhajan. I think we were doing Satchitananda Gurus, and she's doing the first line, and she's handing me the mic, and then she's doing it and then handing it to me. And then she gave me the mic, and then she just nods her head like, I just will be back in a minute. And she disappeared. Now, in ashram, the evening until we start the Om Namah Shivaya, we have to keep going the bhajan, isn't it? Now, it's me alone. And then obviously there is a crowd of Pondicherry people. I have to keep going through the bhajan. And I never really felt so empowered. I never felt like, like the fear, whatever you want to call it. I still cannot give it a word. But I felt like this fear or whatever is stuck in me. Through those 10-15 minutes of experience, like it just melted away. And then since then, I never stopped my bhajans. And I don't know, I'm still express my gratitude to Dr. Nanda and Devasna really for that. However, why she left me with that mic. So to me, if you want to dissolve, if you want to disappear into something, then I would say just follow the sound, bhajans and mantras. So it is very special for me.
Thank you. Such wonderful memories. I really appreciate this last sentence, which truly encapsulates many of the experiences and teachings you have been sharing. If you want to disappear, which is a good thing in yoga, it's not a bad thing, follow the sound. Wow, beautiful, beautiful. On that note, pun intended, you have a surprise for us, yes?
Yes, please. I just need a couple of minutes.
Yes, please, go ahead. We'll be here.
I will lead and you just follow me. Okay, we are coming, Sangeeta ji.
Wonderful.
Come on, sit.
Namaste.
Please come in, come in.
Hi. Namaste.
That is the ones you can read. Come, Krishna, come, quick, quick. Come this side. Oh, this is my team of the Bhajan singing team. Sid, can you come in with the screen?
This is marvelous. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Om Guru Nata Siva Guru Nata
Om Guru
Nata Siva Guru Nata Om Guru Nata Siva Guru Nata
Om Guru
Nata Siva Guru Nata Yoga Guru Nata Gitananda
Yoga
Guru Nata Gitananda Yoga Guru Nata Gitananda
Yoga Guru
Nata Gitananda Ammaji Ananda Guru Satchitananda Aji Ananda Guru Satchitananda Ammaji Ananda Guru Satchitananda Maji Ananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Ananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda
Satchitananda
Guru Satchitananda. Let's do it together. Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda. Om.
Wonderful. Thank you. Marvelous. Would you like to say your names?
Your name?
Krishna. Dev.
Sid.
I'm Sangeeta, and this is going to be shown worldwide. No pressure.
Look at his eyes. Now you can go.
You never told me that.
Oh, thank you so much. This is what a gift. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. So we are at the completion of this episode, dear Jnandev Giri. Is there anything else you would like to share? And I'm asking, recently I'm asking our guests here to share maybe a thought of encouragement or hope or yes, something like that for our satsanga, because people are going through so much, always, right, from the beginning of times, but particularly now there's an awakening of humanity, and a lot of us are going through major changes, major setbacks, also amazing awakenings and realizations. So is there something specifically that you as a teacher and as a sadhaka really you would like to share, please? Thank you.
I think to me, one of the most beautiful thing I experience every day, through these teachings and practices, we should always remain a sadhaka or a sadhaki. And this is to me like not letting that practice or our sadhana, our self-evolution to override our own sort of sincerity in the practice, surrendering into the practice or going through the process. Because the minute we get caught up into, I have become a teacher, I have become a master, it really overrides our own journey. And once we have overridden that our journey for whatever reason, I've become a yogi or I've become a guru, then we also lose the faith, we lose the intensity, we lose the energy. So my sincere sort of, I guess, advice from my own practice is we got to keep doing our practice. As Amaji always says, you got to keep following your path, you got to keep following your regularity, repetition, and rhythm. So that tapas, to me, really my only suggestion to everyone. Keep doing what you do in your practice, and then keep your faith. Keep your faith in the tradition, in the practices, in the ideas, and keep questioning when you're doing them, as we have the self-inquiry, the koham. But if we begin to lose the faith in ourselves and practice, then it's very difficult. So keep the faith and keep doing your practice.
Thank you. This is the topic of yet another episode, faith, Shraddha. Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank your beautiful divine beings who joined to sing with and for us. Thank you so much. And we would like to thank everyone here for listening and tuning in, for sharing, because sharing is caring. And also, if you'd like to learn more about Yogachariya Jnandev Giri, you can see the description again in the video description, as well as clicking on some of the links to be in touch with our Jnandev Giri G directly. Okay, thank you, and see you soon. Namaskaram, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you. Namaste.
Loka samasta sukhinu bhavantu sarve janaha sukhinu bhavantu Om Shanti Shanti